Uh, at first, I would like to thank the forum to give me this opportunity, and it's my great honor to be here. This is my first time. Uh, Actually, the question I think is very interesting, since I want to ask first why the China and the Russian start to approach each other in recent years. I think those two countries face huge pressure, outside pressure from United States. The reason is like China is proposing the new Silk Road strategy. I think that's the reason for that is because of the United States proposed like a TPP and a TPIP, which is actually block the China outside, and also many other countries like India and Russia was also excluded by this new strategy. So for the China, I think the new Silk Road strategy is a reaction to the United States. So now China feel more and more pressure to look forward, eastward, to look the internal of the Eurasian continental. So I think that's why China trying to push forward to the westward. And just now you mentioned that there are a lot of troubles in the Middle East. Actually, in the history and for the traditional Chinese strategy, they don't want to mess up with other countries' stuff. Since in China, the foreign policy is very strict. We don't want other people mess up with our things, and we don't want to mess up with other people's stuff. So China tries to stand outside of any trouble outside of China. So that's a basic strategy of every president, every generation, and the governments. They try to stick to that policy. But the Syria war and this ISIS crisis, I think, start to change many people's mindset. The Chinese government and officials, they start to realize China cannot stand outside of the troubles. So I think probably the Syria war is the first example. China tried to show some power, or you may say, or influence, trying to tell everybody, here's our interest. We don't want this region to be disintegrated. China do not want those two countries, Syria and Iraq, was parted into like 6 or 7 countries. It's not our interest, because if we want to build the new Silk Road, along this way, from the Central Asia, across to Iran, Iraq, Syria, Turkey, we want every country to keep the peace. We don't want the trouble. So I think that China trying to use its money or power or military aid. Sometimes, I mean, probably since Syria, we will see more and more military influence to, probably I think China start to learn from the Russia, try to use some hard power to make ourselves to be heard by everybody. So I think that's probably the first example to do that. And for the new Silk Road, I think the basic logic or the whole strategy is the change the trade route, global trade route. If we look back to the history, we will see during the past 5,000 years, the Eurasian country dominated the civilization because all the trade route actually must cross the land. But after like 1500, the ocean power rise up because the trade route switch from the land to the ocean. That's why a lot of countries, like old empires, they just fail, and a lot of people without seaport, they just left in the poverty. But now I think the things start to change because of the modern economy. The transaction speed is very quick. So if we order something online, we can find the price information in millisecond. But we put the order, we have to wait for 2 months to get the delivery. That's not satisfied with the customer. So people start to think, to invent, have some innovation in the high-speed system, transportation system, like a high-speed railway. That's China try to push forward to do that. For example, in past 10 to 12 years, China has built like over 20,000 high-speed railway system, which is about 60% of the whole world. The average speed is 300 kilometer to 350 kilometer per hour. So during the next 10 years, China will double that size. And China start to think about why don't we use the similar system across the whole continent. So right now they have designed 4 major cross-continent railway system. North line is across link the China, Russia, and Poland and the European countries. The middle way is across the Central Asia, Iran, Iraq, Turkey, and then join the European country. South line is from the southwest, linked to the India and the other Middle East country. And the fourth line is of the pan high-speed railway system start from China, reach to Singapore. So probably in the future, in the next 10 to 20 years, China trying to persuade other countries to join this big plan. China probably proposed to like $200 billion to start as a seed money. But of course, we need more money to finish that. And I think the basic idea is if we have such high-speed overland transportation, then the goods start from Shanghai, ship to like London. It'll only take 48 hours instead of 48 days. So a lot of traffic, the trade traffic, will switch back from the ocean to the land. I think that's a basic logic. So if this strategy succeeds, then I think all of the country within this continent, particularly those Central Asian countries, since they don't have the ocean port, they will have a lot of opportunity to do the business, to have a better opportunity, education opportunity, and other opportunities. So if we can learn from the history, we know that every time when you change the trade route, you will have a new trade center, you will have a new financial center, you will have new world economy. I think that's probably the way China and the Russian, they try to work out the alternative to develop the whole world. I think that's probably the new globalization, we can call that. So, so finally, I think how to do that? I think this need a collaboration between China and Russia, particularly, and other countries. Financially, we need some organization like China has the AIIB, Asian Development Bank, and also we have like a BRICS bank, something like that, and New Silk Road Fund. So those organizations will be used to provide funds. And besides that, I also think probably the most urgent thing is to try to establish the exchange system to stabilize the exchange market. If I'm right, I think probably in the next 2 to 3 years, China and Russia and all the countries will face a much more worse US dollar shortage. That means all the developing countries, their money will depreciate against the US dollar severely. So I think during that period of time, stabilized of the exchange system is very important. It's a key issue. So I think that China and Russia should learn from European history. Like in the 80s, the European countries established the exchange system to keep every country's their exchange system stabilized. I think probably we should learn from that. And after that, I think the Shanghai Cooperation System or organization should provide the safety protection. I think that's also very important, either by joint army like NATO or less than that. I don't know. Probably that's a question to let everybody to think. So I think in the future, integration of the Eurasian continent, I think that's the only way to go for the future. So I think this meeting and this forum is very useful and help people to focus, to look for the new focus of the economy and the future of the globalization. Thank you.
Спасибо. Но спрошу вас вот о чем. Я думаю, что у многих этот вопрос есть. Я думаю, что, конечно, будет сложно вам на этот вопрос ответить, но тем не менее. Каким образом Китай может поспособствовать преодолению этого недоверия, которое есть и со стороны китайских партнеров к европейцам, и к русским партнерам? И это недоверие нужно как-то сломить, которое есть у европейцев и у нас к китайским партнерам. Ну, например, Китай активно инвестирует во все те страны, о которых вы говорили, но с большим трудом пускает инвестиции к себе, потому что исторически для Китая часто это не очень хорошо заканчивалось. Ну, так есть. Это первое. Второе. Будет ли Китай играть более активную политическую роль? Потому что вы совершенно справедливо сказали о увеличивающейся роли Китая в экономике, и даже в военном смысле тоже. А вот в политике инструментов-то предостаточно. И Совет Безопасности ООН, и большое количество межгосударственных, в большей степени политических блоков, в которых принимает участие Китай. Вот политика активная со стороны Пекина, будет ли она, и преодоление того недоверия. Как бы вы ответили на эти два вопроса?
Mistrust, I think that's a very interesting concept. I want to say, I study in the United States. When people talk about the property right, it has everything related to United States history. Since it's a colony, so everybody have to set up the farm by themselves. So they think about the property is exclusive. Very strong exclusive sense. So this is my land, this is my farm, nobody can touch that. But in the Eurasian continent, every country probably is now the immigration country. They have a lot of original people live in this land. For example, in China. Can you say the big canal system or those other public work can be finished by yourself? So since those countries have many years accumulation of the wealth, our generation and after generation put efforts to a lot of public works. So those kind of property rights are not so much exclusive. They're inclusive property right. I use this as an example, since in China, in the university, when the professor, when they taught this concept, they borrowed this property rights concept from the United States textbook directly. They didn't analyze deeply enough to make clear what China can learn, what you cannot learn, basically. So mistrust is similar. When you talk about people trust something, you must to know this concept or must know what this country has been through in past 2,000 years or 1,000 years. I think the fundamental problem within the European country right now, like EU and British, because they have different history, they have different culture, they have different concept of every detail of the life. So how could you make everybody to stick with exactly same concept. That's impossible. So if that's the case, we cannot to be stick with this problem. You just overcome that. You just ignore the trust problem. That's because you cannot solve that. You must focus on the common stuff. What every people agree with. I think that's the most important thing. So instead of try to solve the mistrust situation, I think, which is impossible, I think people should spend more time to figure out what is the common sense, what is everybody agree with. So that's my opinion. Thank you.